everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talking About Rock, sponsored by our friends at School of Rock, North Buffalo. I'm Rob Edwards. The saying goes, you wanted the best, you got the best. Here to talk about the hottest band in the world, Kiss, from the Shout It Out Loudcast. Let's welcome Tom and Zeus to the show. How's it going, guys?
All right, Robert. Thanks for having us. This is going to be great. Appreciate it.
Excellent. So glad you guys could join us. Yeah, definitely. So tell our audience a little bit about how you guys started out your podcast. Maybe Zeus can tell us.
Sure. Tom and I are old buddies from college, and we stayed and remained friends all throughout. And I never got into podcasts, but Tom had mentioned to me, oh, I listen to podcasts. I listen to some Kiss podcasts. I'm like, there are things out there that people have on Kiss?
Right. It's a growing thing for all the stuff. Yeah.
And so I started listening, and then, like we always do, we text each other stupid stuff, and we're like, oh, I would do this. Yeah, we would do this. And like, yeah, we should do our own. If we did our own, we would do this. And then we're like, yeah, why don't we do our own? Well, because we know nothing about podcasting, and neither of us have ever done it. Slowly but surely, we decided to do it. And just as Kiss said, we want to do the podcast that we wanted to hear. And we combined our love of the band Kiss with our immature, stupid humor. And you got Shouted Out Loudcast. And now we're on to season 4. We've got 3 different sidecasts as well. And it's constantly growing.
Yeah, it's one of the top Kiss podcasts out there for sure. When I was going through stuff and checking stuff out, you guys are definitely one of the top Kiss podcasts. And I really love your intro. Whoever put that together for you guys, that is great. I really love that. It's so cool,
Yeah, it's like Zeus said, we've been friends since college. Kind of the friendship kind of started by walking by each other's dorm room and being like, wait a minute, is that Kiss? Because this is 1991. And we're like, wait, you like Kiss? It was almost like finding like that other, like,
right. In the 90s, they weren't too popular. In late 80s, early 90s, right?
And then, like Zeus said, we just started talking about Kiss. And I can tell you right now, our first, we did an introductory episode. And then our first real episode was actually the topic that me and him were texting about. We started talking about deep cuts from Kiss that like were never on any compilation records. So we started having the conversation about a song like Mr. Speed. So our first real episode, we did a draft, and it was all about songs that appear nowhere really other than the studio albums themselves. And we just went from there, and we try to get creative with our topics. We mix in album reviews and guest interviews and drafts and top 10s, and just we try to just make it different every week so that our fans and listeners just kind of keep them excited about Kiss. And it was actually, the timing was perfect for us too, because we started the podcast right when Kiss announced the end of the road tour.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of like great, good luck for us that Kiss was kind of back, in the public consciousness, pop culture. So that was helpful for us too.
Definitely perfect timing for that, for sure. With that getting announced for you guys, doing that and everything. Excellent. Yeah. So let's go back and forth here. I guess we'll start with you, Tom. What got you into Kiss at first? Did you see them live, or was someone else into them, or?
So I have a very vivid memory of this. So I used to spend my summers up in southern Maine, York Beach, and my aunt, uncle, my cousins that were many years older than me, they lived there year round in York Beach, and we used to go there, hang out, spend the weekend, whatever. And this was 1978, so I was 5 years old. Okay, and 5-year-old, 6-year-old, what are you going to do when all your older cousins and relatives are hanging around? So I used to go into his room, and I remember vividly on his floor, he didn't have them on a rack or a shelf. He had just stacks upon stacks of vinyl. And at that time in 1978, album artwork was the thing. So I remember just flipping through. Off the top of my head, I vividly remember seeing like the album covers to like Molly Hatchet, Boston's debut album, and then flipping through, and I saw Love Gun, which had come out in 1977.
Yep.
And I remember looking at my older cousin. I said, "What's this? What is this?" And he goes, "Oh, Kiss? Oh, you could take that if you want. I don't even remember buying that." So I took that home, listened to it. I still have that 1977 Love Gun that he gave me. I still have it. It's framed.
Oh, awesome. One question for you on the Love Gun album. Does
Sure.
it have the cardboard love gun?
It did. It doesn't anymore.
Oh,
It did
okay.
when
Because that was
when
the cool collector thing.
that
for
was the thing.
right?
Yeah, when he gave it to me, it had it. But then ever since then, that was it. That's the album that got me hooked. I got, double platinum from my parents, got me the double platinum, the gatefold. I still have that, the original from 78. Then Dynasty. And then when Kiss started to change course, I was like, Unmasked, The Elder. And like Zeus always says, I'm 8 years old. I've outgrown Kiss now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were really searching for their identity there for a
Yeah.
while. They weren't sure what to do, and things like that happened. So what about you, Zeus? What really got you into Kiss and what started you on the whole?
Sure. The same kind of situation. We find that most people have this story. 74, 70, Kiss comes out. I was born in 73. So even by the time Destroyer and Love Gun and all those albums came out and Kiss is at its height in 77, 78, I'm 4, 5 years old.
Yeah.
I had older cousins and stuff that got me into them. I just remembered Kiss being more than just music. I just it was almost comic books.
Yeah, they were like superheroes in the 70s for sure.
Exactly. So you got the TV, you had the TV show movie that came out. You've got the Kiss cards. I remember getting the cards.
Oh yeah. Yep. I had those.
And and then you would find yourself fascinated with the album covers. And, I would be like, oh, that's me. I'm Peter Criss. One cousin would say, I'm Gene Simmons. I'm this, I'm the Star Child. And you could play with that. You ain't doing that with Styx. Right. So
that's true.
This was
Very
what we
true.
were doing. And and then as Tom says, I like to joke that I outgrew Kiss. They were too immature for me when I was like 7. And I fell out of them for a little while. And then by the time I got into the point in my life where I'm buying music on my own with my own money and I'm running out to get stuff, I got back into Kiss after going to visit the same cousin that got me into Kiss when I first met him, when was introduced to them. He was playing Animalized live because they're in Detroit. So Kiss was big again, Detroit.
Right.
And he had it on. I'm like, what is this? And he was telling me it's Kiss. I'm like, oh, the guys with the makeup. And he's like, yeah. And then now I'm buying Kiss albums again. I started going, Asylum, Animalized. Then I went backwards and I discovered them. And then, I always had Kiss was my band because it was nostalgia. It was the first music artist that I was into. And so by the time I get to college, then I met Tom, and then you get that Kiss buddy.
Exactly.
Right now you don't have that, oh, I'm the only one I know that really is into Kiss. Now you have that Kiss buddy. So we, 4 years of college would always, oh, this and that is going on with Kiss. We tried to, as much as we could, recruit others, but it wasn't going to work. Tom and I got into it. We would watch Extreme Close Up, the video that just came out nonstop. And that got us back into Kiss. And then next thing you know, we're dressing up as Kiss for Halloween in college. And we're talking 94, before Reunion and anything.
I vividly remember walking into the athletic complex. They had a big college Halloween event, and it was a costume event. It was myself, Zeus, my roommate, and Buddy Murph, who's been on our show a couple times, and another friend, Mike, who is also kind of a casual Kiss fan. We went in, faces painted, all black. We walked in, and everybody was like, what? It was almost like when Kiss walked out on stage during the Grammys. Everybody's like, what is...
They're like, oh, we're back.
Yeah, like, what is this?
Right.
Because in 1994... everybody painted their faces like the Crow. That was the big movie. So everybody was like, oh, the Crow. We walk in, people like, oh, those guys aren't the Crow. They Kiss. What are they doing?
Yeah. And then we got to see the reunion together. And that was the first time I actually seen Kiss, was the reunion concert. And there's something about it.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to see them way back in the day. So I was 8 years old and I went to my first Kiss concert in 1978. And I was just, just blown away from there. My sister took me for my birthday present. And it was just like, because I'd seen the albums. And like you said, the artwork back then was amazing. You got cool stuff. Like I had Rock and Roll Over and you used to get all the cool little stickers of stuff in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Extra stuff like that. And like when you're a younger kid, before your teens, Yeah, these are like superheroes. These are like comic book guys, and they came out with a comic book that was actually printed around here in Buffalo
Yeah.
with real Kiss blood.
with their blood. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it was just the coolest thing seeing. Nobody else was doing like stuff like that at the time. Very theatric, the fire breathing and everything. It was just like totally over the top. And then some of the older kids, they were like, "Oh yeah, Kiss isn't cool anymore." They were too hokey for them right after
Exactly.
a while. But
Exactly. Yep. Phantom of the Park comes out. People are like, what the hell? Although nowadays, I absolutely love that movie. I take it for what it is. It's
Yeah.
nostalgic. It's fun. It's campy.
yeah,
It's,
they've actually kind of re-embraced that a little bit, and they kind of let
I
the
hope
cat
they
out of the
do.
bag. Kind
Yeah.
of what happened behind the scenes with Ace and Peter not showing up, and you can see the close-ups of their doubles, who obviously aren't them in some of the shots.
The Ace Frehley stunt double's the best. The African American guy. I'm like, that ain't Ace
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching it on TV. I was like so stoked back in the day to see it. And
Yep.
I still have a copy on VHS. I'll be totally honest.
Of course, so do I. Yeah, I have the VHS. Yep.
But the early Kiss albums really didn't sell very well. They really struggled with that. Tom, what do you think was the problem in the first early albums? I mean, it looked pretty cool. The first album definitely kind of had a Beatlesque look to it. It was kind of cool, but kind of dark. And I thought it was pretty neat. And their sound was a little bit different, but nothing kind of jived for them for a couple albums.
Yeah, I think the problem at that time, so the first album comes out in 74. They pump out Harder Than Hell, which was real murky, real difficult to listen at the time. Then Dress to Kill comes out, kind of almost like a power pop album. So, and we've all heard the story. I think the problem with Kiss at that time was they were making all their bones on their live performance.
Right.
The
Right.
energy, the antics, Gene with the fire breathing and just the running around and the energy, and you weren't getting that on those records.
Yeah. And Casablanca was losing money hand over fist.
Of course,
right?
yeah, of course.
Bill Coyne was fronting them money from his American Express to keep the tours going and stuff, and the record company was going to go down, and then they get the masterful idea, which I kind of really think to myself, this really launched the idea of live albums for people, because after that you saw a ton of live albums from other people. Case in point, Peter Frampton, right? He was nobody until his live album, right?
That's right. The 70s were a huge era for live albums.
Yeah, but when Kiss Alive hit, it was like you were saying, Zeus, before. Kiss Alive hit, it's like, oh, we're younger kids. Oh, we can dress up, and I want to be Paul, or I want to be Gene, and we played that out when I was a kid too. We did the same thing. You know what I mean? Listening to the live album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would also add to that, though, if they just stopped there and then put out lackluster albums, they still probably wouldn't be the Kiss that we know today. Right. They came back with their most popular album. Now, it was a little polarizing to their old fans because all of a sudden the sound is different. And Ezra and Bob, the producer, put a bunch of new stuff in there. You got orchestras, you got choruses, you got a ballad. But that ballad opened a lot of doors for them.
Yeah, that ballad opened damn radio wide open.
Yes,
right? They weren't sure they wanted to do that at the time. I read a lot of stuff about that. They were kind of really thinking this isn't the way to go. But
yeah, and that ballad opened things up, but then they followed it with two classic albums, one after the next, and that's all they did was continuously tour and continuously putting out albums. So you've got what did they have? 8 albums if you count double platinum and the solo albums.
Yeah.
And then Dynasty, what is that? They came out
5 years.
5 years. How many albums is that?
Yeah, I think for a while there they were putting out 2 albums a year.
Yeah, in 5 years you had in 5 years you had 6 studio albums, 2 live albums, a compilation, and the 4 solo albums. And then if you throw then Dynasty, so 7 studio albums. So think of that. I mean, that's usually a band's entire career.
Yeah.
That's 5 years of them.
The only other band that comes to mind, I think that might have done that as the Stones. They put out 2 albums a year. There might be other ones, but that's the only one that really comes to mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, those albums are like classic, right? Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over, Love Gun. For me, Alive 2 was just huge. It was like a really, really nice package that they came out with. That all the graphics and photographs I thought were excellent. It's kind of what you really wanted with Alive.
Yeah,
You know
and
what I mean?
the big thing too, I think, after Alive comes out and they release that string of those albums, Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over Love Gun, that's also when they started to saturate the market with all their merchandise.
Oh, the
So
kings of merchandise, right?
exactly.
Definitely.
So people are connecting that merchandise, that the visual aspect to what they're hearing, which again is just a brilliant stroke of genius with marketing, not just the music, but that Kiss knew, like, okay, we need more than just a record to sell. And when you're getting I mean, everybody had the Kiss lunchbox, the
Yep.
pencils, the posters, the sleeping bag,
Oh yeah, my
everything was,
walls were full of Kiss pictures. Before they had
of
the nice
course,
big posters, I just would buy every magazine and cut out every picture and hang it on my walls for sure.
of course. Yep.
And then after all that, then obviously we started to see cracks in the band, and drugs and alcohol were taking their toll, and all the pressure from all the touring was taking their toll. Peter Criss was out of the band, and we started getting lineup changes, and things started changing from there drastically. They had lost their identity, and then they weren't really sure about their sound at that point.
Well, see, I like that stuff because you don't have the same four. You have different eras of Kiss.
You do.
And I like those various lineups because they gave you different sounds. And there's not a Kiss album that I don't like.
Yeah.
So they're all a little bit different.
Yeah, they all have their good parts. You know what I mean? Creatures of the Night definitely has some really cool stuff to it for sure.
So if you go by Dynasty, which considered the disco album, I'm saying consider, I'm not saying they are. And then you go into Unmask, a pop album. Then you go into like the progressive.
Yeah. Well, they did lose a lot of fans with that song, right? When they decided to change it up, they did lose hardcore fans. Now it's accepted. Now everybody loves that song. But back in the day, that was not the case, right?
Yeah, no. And then you got a concept album, progressive concept album afterwards. And then they come back with like the heaviest metals album they've ever done, Creatures of the Night.
Yeah. And that's also that's also the time when Kiss, we talk about this a lot on our show, when Kiss went from being innovators and leaders to just becoming followers. With the Dynasty album, disco's kind of thing. 80s, pop new wave is popular. Concept, progressive stuff is and then of course Creatures of the Night, they went back and did their own thing.
Yeah.
They take the makeup off or lick it up. And then the 80s, we all love what they did in the 80s, but no one's going to really try to defend the fact that they weren't following the trends with each of those releases, which that's okay because we love it. But you could see why a lot of Kiss fans are like, what are they doing? They think they're Bon Jovi. Yeah. They think they're Poison. They think they're whatever.
Yeah, there were so many 80s hair bands that were hitting, right? That was the big 80s hair band thing for metal. And so they really didn't have any distinction at that time to kind of set them apart. They'd taken the makeup off, and all of a sudden all these hair bands come out with all their different types of things, more glam hair band rock, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, and they were changing their styles too. You see Paul Stanley wearing some odd outfits and different things, and some of their different videos are way out there, but videos kind of were too, right? I mean, you had Van Halen doing swinging across there, so you saw Paul Stanley swinging across the screen on things. Yep. So they were trying a couple different things for a while till they kind of got things back together again. And I'm a fan of some of the 80s stuff myself. I really like Hot in the Shade. I really like Crazy Nights. I thought that was really cool. They're not big fans of those albums, but I really liked them. I was happy. On Animalize, I think they were starting to figure it out, starting to put it back together. And then I think we started getting that in the albums after that. At least that's what I feel anyway.
Yeah, you started seeing different aspects of that, even the 80s without makeup, different variations of 80s type band. There was, as Tom would call it, fast Kiss, right? Where they're either got guitar players basically going nuts on certain songs. You've got pop Kiss, you got synth Kiss, keyboard heavy Kiss. You've got stripped down Kiss with the, all of a sudden people are putting acoustic guitar intros. Oh, let's do Rise to it. Let's put an acoustic intro to it. Yeah. And then you got the power ballads. They start doing, okay, let's put in Forever.
Yeah. What I really loved in the day,
they did it.
Yeah, what I really loved in the day before those changes and everything, they understood the mystique because someone told them, you're not to show up anywhere without your makeup. We want it real mysterious who you are. And that really added, I think, to their legend big time, until the day came when they were on MTV and they did the big, unmask on MTV, and everybody tuned into that to see, and probably after they saw it, they were like done, because Kiss wasn't that big at the time. But I know that just added to the mystique of everything. That was very, very cool.
Sure. But I will give Kiss credit, whether or not you're a fan of those 80s albums, whether people think that they were followers with trends, they really were fairly successful in reinventing themselves as a new band, as a an 80s rock band. Like Zeus said, you had Vinnie Vincent and Mark St. John. They were trying to do the shred stuff. Then you bring in Bruce Kulick, much more melodic, but can do that, that up and down the fretboard stuff if he has to. MTV had just come out, which was a huge thing for them, because Paul Stanley, good looking front man, acrobatic with doing the stunts and doing all those things, real visual. So the timing worked for them, and they did the best that they could with it. And again, people like us that are Kiss freaks, we love it. But even people that may have shifted away from Kiss around the Dynasty and Unmasked era, they came back when they heard songs, like Tears Are Falling, or when Hot in the Shade comes out with Hide Your Heart and Rise to It.
Yeah, I loved Hide Your Heart and Rise to It. Definitely.
Yep. Those are undeniable pop rock songs, and they really did a nice job with that.
Yeah, the songwriting really took off, and then I think they also did some songwriting with Desmond Child somewhere in there as well. I'm not sure if it was those tracks or other tracks, but
no, there were a bunch of them. And then he points, and then he was supposed to produce Bon Jovi's album. Says, I can't, but hey, why don't you work with Desmond Child? And then Bon Jovi is still thanking Paul Stanley for that move.
Yep.
All the money he's counting these days because of that.
Yep.
Right.
So,
yep.
Right. Well, Bon Jovi's trying to go back on tour too, but that's another story. But
good luck with that these days. I've seen him he makes Paul look like I don't know, Pavarotti in his prime.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So they went through all that in the 80s, and then I think they finally started to realize, like you were saying, with the MTV thing, they'd done some acoustic stuff, and MTV called them and said, we want to have you come and do Unplugged. And that was like the beginning of the rebirth, right? They understood who they were. It's like, you already found out who you were. Now you were running from who you were. You need to get back to that. That's who the people identify you with, and that's who they wanted. And that showed in Unplugged, right? When everybody was back again, it didn't matter who was getting paid what or what contract was where. They were just having fun on stage again.
Yeah, and I think the success of MTV, I think the thing that was so great about that was that it's on MTV, and Unplugged was a huge event. But that really showed people who may not have been Kiss fans that these guys can write good songs. Because I've always said, if your song sounds good on MTV Unplugged, that's how you know you have a good song. Okay, because a lot of songs can sound great on a studio record with a lot of noodling and engineering and overproducing. When you're up there stripped down, and Kiss again knew what they were doing, because they played the hits, but they really dug in deep with a lot of those MTV Unplugged selections.
Yeah, that's definitely a good yard rule for that. You got a good point, yeah.
Absolutely. And of course you had Ace and Peter come out, everybody singing, Rock and Roll All Night. I mean, it was like an absolute incredible moment for everybody.
Yeah. And the other guys were surprised, because I was watching the Kiss Tree documentary again the other day. They were surprised when Gene and Paul came back and said, we're gonna do a reunion tour with the other guys. We're putting this on hold. We're gonna finish up Carnival of Souls, but then we're heading out. They weren't ready to hear that,
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for Bruce and Eric Singer, but they weren't going to give up that opportunity. And they bring on Doc McGee, who's like, no, we're not doing like small venues like you've been used to. This is different. Now, remember now, too, you're looking at 96. Grunge already killed hair metal. And the only reason Kiss was surviving, and by surviving, I mean they're playing convention halls, is because they have that nostalgia from the 70s that was allowing them to continue. But all the other bands were gone by that point. So that allowed them to do that. And then Doc comes in with the vision of, No, we're going big. And it paid off. It really paid off. And that image of Kiss being larger than life and the nostalgia. And I always like to think that whatever decade you're in, you skip a decade previous, and that's the decade everyone likes to go back to. So like the 90s is rejuvenating the 70s, right? Like Pulp Fiction and Kiss is coming back and all these other artists versus, you know, the 80s are bringing up the 60s and the 70s bring up Happy Days is talking about the 50s. Well, Kiss came back at the perfect time because the 70s were all the rage in the 90s. And it worked. It really worked.
Yeah, definitely. I think Doc McGee definitely hit it out of the park. He knew exactly what to do. He was definitely the right person for that. And they knew that they had a show. They were going to make it bigger and they were going to make it louder. But that's what everybody remembers talking about, right? When you went to a Kiss show, it wasn't just a concert. It was like an event. You remember seeing this stuff. I know I remember seeing, you know, Gene Simmons, you know, spitting fire, and Paul Stanley breaking his guitar, and, you know, Ace Frehley smoking guitar, all those things that nobody else had been doing yet. And now they were doing it bigger. Now Gene Simmons sings God of Thunder like from the rafters way up there. You know, they pull him up and he sings it way up there, and they do it even bigger, and the huge drum riser and everything. And I tell so many bands, it's just like, you need to have a show. These guys almost invented the show. These guys and Alice Cooper invented the rock show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think with Kiss too, they kind of started to get that little nostalgia itch right around the Hot in the Shade tour, because they started to bring in some classic songs. I mean, for example, that was the first time I saw Kiss, 1990 Hot in the Shade tour. They're touring for a new album, and they opened with I Stole Your Love. I mean, that right there is a signal to themselves and to the fans that, okay, we're going to reach in now and go a little bit deeper. And even on Alive 3 on the Revenge tour, they started playing stuff like Watching You and I Was Made for Loving You. They started digging into that classic catalog. So I think they started getting that itch too. Like, let's tap back into this and try to get our fans back. And then, you know, it was an absolutely, like, you know, dreamlike sequence of events for them from there. Like you said, we talked about MTV Unplugged, you know, the reunion. I mean, the timing it was almost like the script was written for them.
Yeah. It was just great to see that back and see that reunion. I got to catch that reunion tour when they came here to Buffalo, and I thought it was great. You know, they sounded great. They, you know, really worked with Ace and Peter to get them back where they needed to be, to put on the show that they wanted to put on and put the time in fat. Obviously, didn't last very long. All of a sudden, they had the issues eventually come up again. Things happened, but you know, it was cool. It was really cool to see how that kind of went. And now with the way things are, it's like you were saying before, Zeus, it's those four characters. There's someone everyone can identify with, right? In some way, you know, it's either you're the Paul Stanley guy where you want to be the cool Studley guy, or you want to be the evil Gene Simmons guy, or you want to be the spaceman, the space ace, or the cool cat. You know, one of those somebody always identifies with. And I think that was part of, you know, the great creation they thought of.
Yeah, there's not many things in life that are at its prime when you remember as a child that you can say, look at this now. So you can't take your kids and be like, hey, when I was a kid, the Red Sox had Dwight Evans, Jim Rice, and Fred Lynn in the outfield, the greatest outfield of all time. And then you take your kids to the Sox game, they're not out there. But you can remember what Kiss was like out there. Now bring your kids and be like, look at this. And it's not anything normal. You said it, like Alice Cooper and things like that. If you go to, it's not going to REO Speedwagon and watching them perform.
No.
You go to a Kiss show, there's at least 10 things in the middle of the show, and you could probably name them, that are going to happen that don't happen in other shows. So whether it be, this is where Gene Breen's father. What? Fire? Why? Why is he doing that?
Right.
What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, because they brought a fire breather in the one time.
Yeah.
The guy.
Yeah. This is where Ace's guitar gets on fire and he shoots rockets. Well, this is when Paul swings halfway across the stage. Well, this is Gene bleeding blood comes out. What? This is when they all swing back and forth and do do's. This is where Paul breaks his guitar.
Right.
Oh, this is when Peter's drum riser. I mean, I could do this all day.
Yeah,
like,
I remember when they're talking
blown.
about that, when they're talking about the swinging back and forth thing, and nobody really had done that way back then yet. And everybody kind of thought it was hokey. And they're like, give it a try and see how it was. And so don't you know, after a couple of years, you see all the other bands doing the same thing. You see Judas Priest doing the same thing. You know, some of the other metal bands doing it. And so, yeah, you wait for that stuff. And like you're saying, the blood thing, nope, nobody had done that. The fire breathing thing, you know, they brought in
like any other show. No.
Yeah, they brought in a fire breather, you know, to teach one of the guys how to do it. And they're like, okay, which one of you guys is going to be doing this in the show? You know?
Yep. But yeah, nobody does that kind of stuff. And the fact that they still do it now with two of the original members. You know, you still have the real demon. You still have the guy that was breathing fire and spitting blood in the 70s is still doing it now.
Like, he sounds just as good.
Yeah, that is an incredible thing to have as a Kiss fan.
Yeah, and you brought up the original members and the new guys. So that was a really hard thing for me to deal with at first. Seeing Ace and Peter not there, seeing people cycle in and out. And when they were out of makeup, it was kind of a little different. It really didn't matter that they cycled people out. But then when they brought them in and they took those personas over, you know, people really made a stand about that for a while, whether they really liked Tommy or they liked Eric doing this. And for a while, there was a lot of rumor and back and forth. I think it's a little bit more accepted now, although every once in a while, people are still upset because Ace isn't there. But you can go see Ace tour, and I saw him a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people are upset that Peter's not there. But I think the new guys are just as good as, if not better. But it's had to be so hard to step into that persona. So hard.
Yeah, I think once they put the original four makeup on with two new guys, that is when Kiss officially signed off as being a full-blown nostalgia act, in my opinion. Meaning, we're going to go like Blue Man Group. Okay, if you've ever seen Blue Man Group, it's not the same guys every night, but they all wear the same.
Right, it can be any four. It can be any four guys.
That's right. They wear the same blue things. They do the same show, and everybody has an amazing time.
Right. And I think that's where they're headed with this.
That's right.
They're kind of alluded to that, and Gene kind of almost said that. There'll probably be one or two like Kiss official bands or whatever they want to call them, tribute bands or whatever they want to call them, and those will be the ones that tour under the Kiss umbrella, if
the
you
Kiss
will.
brand. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And they'll tour maybe East Coast, West Coast, or whatever, doing all those things. You know, when the end of the road comes, and it's like, you know, now we're at the end of the road, but the end of the road keeps getting longer and longer, right? They keep extending that tour, more dates and more dates, and I get it. I mean, if people still want to see it, of course, why not, right?
I think Gene might be kind of. I'm not sure if he's really aware of what's going on, because I think he's thinking, oh, people will take anybody wearing the Catman and the Spaceman makeup. They'll do the same. What he's failing to realize, in my opinion, and Zeus can talk on this, you still have the real Gene Simmons in the real Paul Stanley. Those are the two guys that sing Rock and Roll All Night. Those are the two guys that sing Shout It Out Loud. That's the guy that sings God of Thunder and Breathes Fire. That's the guy that swings out and sings Love Gun.
Yeah.
If Paul and Gene leave, you know, my Blue Man Group analogy was more of a visual analogy. Blue Man Group doesn't sing, so it doesn't matter what
That's very true.
Kiss. Paul and Gene sing, so when they're gone, you're now going to have new people, and I really don't know if that is going to be something that people are going to embrace in terms of diehard fans, and that's where I don't think Gene cares. I think he wants to be Blue Man Group.
Yeah, I think to embrace it, they're going to have to let Kiss go away for a couple of years after they finally decide, right? And then figure out if people will take that. What do you think, Zeus?
How can you miss us if we never go away?
Exactly.
Right? And that's the problem they have. Yep. So if that's what they want to do, and look, we discussed this in many different variations and forms on Shout It Out Loudcast, anywhere you get your podcast, all the time. You have a billion different people with a billion different ideas of what's the right thing, how they should have done it, what I would look. To me, the best thing they're doing is continuing Kiss like this with Tommy and Eric, because if you don't want to watch it, then don't watch it. But to all those that do want to hear it, they get the opportunity.
Yeah.
So if you don't like it, just shut up and watch it. Who cares? Now,
definitely.
and if Tommy and Eric weren't there, Kiss would have folded. So you
Oh.
mean to tell me the last 15, 20 years, you're not happy that Kiss is out there doing what they're doing?
That's a
They
good
never
point.
would be
That's a
doing
very
that
good
without
point.
Ace and
Exactly.
Peter. There's no
Very good
way
point.
they'd be doing it.
We,
So
we-
don't listen if you don't like it. But if you
Yep.
do, it's there for you.
yeah, Robert, Zeus and I, we also saw Ace in concert a year ago, last September. We love Ace, and you know what you're getting when you see him.
Right.
But his spectacular backing band is lifting him up.
Oh,
big
for sure.
time.
For
Big
sure.
time.
Those guys are great. Yeah, I know one of the guys in there, and his backing band is amazing.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And I say that because if people out there still think that Kiss can tour with Ace Frehley as the lead guitar player, then you're not paying attention to what's going on.
Right.
And I love Ace. Zeus, we all love Ace.
Yeah,
But
I understand exactly what you're saying. I totally
Kiss
agree
would
with
not
you.
Kiss would not be touring right now if Eric and Gene and Paul, they're not stupid. They know that those guys are the reason they're still touring and still doing Kiss cruises right now. It's because of them.
Right. I wanted to
Well,
talk about that
yeah.
too, about the Kiss cruise. Has either one of you guys been on one of those yet? I haven't had a chance.
Go ahead, Zeus.
Yeah,
You checked one out?
We went last year. We're going on this one as well.
Yep.
Of course, fear of missing out. We're like, it's the last one. We got to go. So
It's the last one. It'll be
Yeah, right. Exactly.
it's just stupidity on our part. Because like all Kiss fans, we fall for it every time. Oh, I'm not
Right.
doing this again. No, I'm
Right.
doing it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing I wanted to get back to about this whole thing with Ace and Peter and stuff, what you were saying, I just want to piggyback one little thing about that.
Mhm.
Ace has identified himself many, many times over, has been described, and he calls himself lazy. It's one thing for the band to put up with a lazy, creative Ace Frehley in his 20s in the 1970s. Imagine putting up with a lazy Ace Frehley now in his 70s,
Yeah,
not
no.
the 70s,
Yeah.
in his 70s.
Yeah, you know the saying goes,
He ain't doing that.
nobody got time for that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Paul
right, right.
Stanley and Gene Simmons, the one thing you can't describe them is lazy. They're the
Oh
hardest
no,
working
they are
people.
go-getters, businessmen, get
Absolutely.
it done. That's what I love about them.
Yep.
Yeah.
People will say all kinds of bad stuff about Gene Simmons, but he's a smart businessman. He knows when to strike when the iron's hot.
Of
You know,
course.
the merchandising, the touring, and Paul's right there with him, making sure it gets done. They're a great team.
What
They're
do
a
we say, Tom?
oh yeah, Zeus always says it.
Paul is the band and Gene is the brand. That's how it works. Any music and anything touring, any schedule and all that stuff, that's Paul. Final say. Gene goes out and brands that band like no tomorrow. And that's how it works. They're not the same. They're not best friends. They're not enemies. They
Right.
have a working
Right.
partnership that works for them. And that's
Yep.
all that matters.
Yeah, and to get back to the merchandising, I heard that they're discontinuing the Kiss casket, so now they're limited edition.
The only
One
thing
thing, Tom,
go
one
ahead,
thing I
Zeus.
want to
Go-
put it before
go
I
ahead.
lose this train of thought. So now you're gonna get Kiss fans digging up dead relatives to get them out of their Kiss cast.
Do you know how much this thing is worth?
It's a low number. Gotta get it.
Yeah, Uncle Fred. Sorry, buddy.
I get you this wooden box. I could sell this thing for 800 grand on
Yeah.
eBay.
I just think that was one of the most amazing merchandise things they had. That and the Kiss condoms with the caskets. You're definitely die hard if you're getting the Kiss casket. Right?
The casket, the only story I know about the casket that always kind of struck me was that Dimebag Darrell, the beloved guitarist from Pantera, when he passed away, he was buried in a Kiss casket.
with Eddie Van Halen's guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's
With
right.
Eddie
That's
Van
right.
Halen's guitar. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But
Yep.
the Kiss casket is just, I mean, come on, right there. You gotta
Yeah,
love Gene,
and it can work as a cooler as well.
which is
That was the
hilarious.
other thing.
There's
That's
a
what he used to
picture of
sell.
that.
Zeus,
Yeah.
you should be doing spots for them, man. Did they call
Yeah.
you yet?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
That was one of his plugs. He would say, if you don't want to bury him until you bury somebody, you can use it as a cooler. And he'd put like ice in, put drinks in there. Like,
There was a picture of the thing was half open and it was like filled with like Bud Light or something.
Yeah.
There. Like
I can put my money bag soda in there because I got a couple of those.
Money bag.
exactly.
There you
Exactly.
go.
That's right. Yep.
Nice. I didn't even think of that. Thanks for the idea there. So
Perfect.
got a couple
course.
of quick questions left for you guys, and then I'll let you go. I just want to go
Sure.
back and forth here. We'll end it out here. So
Okay.
the first thing, let's go back to you, Tom. Top
Yeah.
3 Kiss albums for you.
Top 3. Oh boy. Whenever we have guests on our show, we always say today, because you asked me this question tomorrow, you asked me this question in an hour, it might be
Okay,
different.
so we'll say today. Let's do that.
Today you're going to, from right now, you're going to get Love Gun, Dress to Kill, and Dynasty. That's what you get from me today.
All right, from you today. Okay, Zeus, how about from you today? Your top 3 albums today, if you had to go on an island or somewhere, you only had 3 Kiss albums to take.
Tom knows what a major OCD I am, and I still haven't said it on our podcast. We're almost up to 200 episodes.
So just cover the albums we've reviewed.
Yeah, that's what I'm just about to say, Tom.
Yeah.
So I will tell you how I've ranked from the albums we've reviewed. And number 1 is Rock and Roll Over, 2 is Creatures of the Night, and number 3 is The Debut.
There you go. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you, Zeus. You have another question. So who have you met from Kiss, or who do you still want to meet?
Well, it depends what you mean meet. Like
meet and greets are fine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like I stood from here to where those CDs are behind me when I saw Paul and Gene play on the Kiss cruise, right?
Right.
You might as well meet them. They're 2 feet away from you. But who have I spoken to and things like that? We've met Peter Criss at the meet and greet at Creatures Fest. I met Ace. Hey, brother, how are you? We met.
That's Ace. Yep.
Yeah, and then Bruce, we've had him on the show, and we met him there as well.
And don't forget about Vinnie Vincent.
Oh, and Vinnie Vincent.
Vinnie
Yeah,
That's right. Yep. So Ace, Peter, Bruce, and Vinnie. Yes.
Nice.
Oh no. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. We said Peter. Yeah. We're working towards Gene and Paul. But yeah.
Yeah. I was lucky enough back in the day to get everybody that was in Revenge, all their autographs. They were actually signing autographs at a mall when they used to do stuff like that for free back in the day.
Oh yeah.
So I got
exactly.
Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Eric Singer, and Bruce Kulick to sign at that time.
Beautiful.
Obviously, you wouldn't get in 5 feet of them now without $2,000 or more in your hand. But
right.
I did get a copy of Ace's signature, but I had to purchase that. So Peter's the only one that's going to be the holdout for me that I'll have to figure out a way to get or something.
He's making appearances. He was at Creatures Fest, and he was just recently at a horror convention in New Jersey. So he's out and about doing photo ops and signing stuff. So keep your eye on that, because he's making the rounds briefly. So he's out there. Yeah,
I did see that he was starting to come out a little bit more, and hopefully we'll see something with him. But so end of the road tour keeps extending, keeps going on. So we'll stay tuned and see what's happening with that. Thank you guys so much for being with us, talking everything Kiss and stopping by. I love your podcast, man. Keep it going. It's some great stuff.
Robert, thank you so much for having us. Great time talking. Love it. Thank you.
Excellent. Yep.
Robert, you're the best, man. Appreciate the time. Thank you for having us on, and I hope we see you soon.
Definitely, guys. Definitely. And if you folks out there want to know more about us, you have comments or questions, please feel free to email us at talkingaboutrock@gmail.com. Please like us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And for this video, you can check it out on YouTube, and the audio will be dropping on all the streaming services very soon. Guys, again, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.